Hi everybody, this video today is going to be talking about angle properties. We're talking about angle pairs. So the other day we talked about some angle pairs, and today we're going to talk about some more different kinds of angle pairs. This is going to be our last lesson in Unit 2. Okay, so if we look at angle pairs, two of the other angle pairs that we need to talk about are vertical angles and something called linear pairs. The definition of vertical angles is they are two angles formed by opposite rays. They make a perfect X. And it's really the points or the corners inside that X. So let me show you. Angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. Angle 3 and angle 4 are also vertical angles. So like 3 and 4 go together and 1 and 2 go together. And this definition that was typed in here talks about rays, but they really have to be perfectly straight lines, because if they weren't straight lines, it wouldn't work out. So angle 3 and angle 4 are vertical angles, angle 2 and angle 1 are vertical angles. All right, so angle 1 and angle 2 go together, angle 3 and angle 4 go together. Linear pair, two adjacent angles whose non-common sides forms a line. Well, that's kind of confusing. Let's look instead at the phrase. It's a linear pair. It makes a line. So a pair means two, right? Two angles together that make a line. So in this case, angle 5 and angle 6, they make a straight line. And so since they make a straight line, they are a linear pair. All right, angle 5 and angle 6 are a linear pair. All right, so let's look at an example. Here we have a diagram. I don't know about you, but to me it looks like there's a lot going on here. So I want to kind of break it up and see what we're looking at. First of all, we're looking for linear pairs. Anytime we look for a linear pair, we need to look for a straight line. I see two straight lines that like go the whole way. I'm talking about this one, that's a straight line that goes the whole way, and this one is a straight line that goes the whole way. There's this other one, but it's just like, it doesn't have anything over here, so we're not going to count that one. Let's start with this one. So what are two angles? It has to be two. It's a pair, only two, that create a linear pair. Well, I see angle 1 and angle 5 added together. So I'm going to say angle 1 and angle 5 are a linear pair. On the other side, there's too much going on. 3 doesn't work. I'm going to go back and highlight the other line for a second. Okay, so now let's look at this line, and let's look at where is the linear pair here. Well, I see angle 1 and angle 2. Those make up a straight line. And on the other side of the line over here, once again, too much going on. 3 of them, that's not a pair. No one uses the word pair for 3, so that doesn't work. All right, linear pairs make a straight line. Let's look at vertical angles. Vertical angles, one way to kind of remember them is the letter V. Vertical makes a V, right? So I'm looking for a vertical angle. So even though I said the word V, it really needs to be an X. But let's take a look. All right, you see how I've highlighted it? So let's say this angle and this angle, angle 2 and angle 5, are vertical angles. There's like a V over here and a V over here, but really together they make an X. You kind of need to remember the letter X more than the letter V. All right, those two make an X. I'm looking to see, are there any other X's? And I'm just not seeing any. Like, this is the only other line we have, but it doesn't make an X with anything. Because we have like this, but that, would we go for that? There's nothing else. This is the only pair of vertical angles that we have. Those are the only ones. One more set of questions, and this is kind of a review question, which is good because we need that review from time to time. If we look at these, adjacent angles. Do you remember what adjacent angles are? Adjacent angles are when they're back to back and they share a vertex. So there's a bunch of them, I mean a bunch, in this diagram. The first ones that I see are angle 2 and angle 3. Do you see how angle 2 and angle 3 are back to back and they share a vertex? Okay, what's another pair that's back to back and share a vertex? There's a bunch. I mean, I don't even think I have enough answer blanks here. 3 and 4. They are back to back and they share a vertex. 4 and 5. Back to back, share a vertex. 5 and 1. I think we've gotten all of them. because I went around the circle. Oh, I didn't do 1 and 2, angle 1 and angle 2. That would be another pair, would be angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. I kind of just started here and I went around the whole thing. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. We got all of them. And because we went all the way around, we got all of them. There's no other ones we can do. We're done. Let's talk a little bit more specifically. Okay, so we have a linear pair, or we have vertical angles. What about them? Well, a linear pair is supplementary. In other words, their sum is 180. Which makes sense because a line, I think you know that a line is 180. So angle 1, that's an angle sign, and angle 2 are a linear pair, which means that the measure of angle 1, I should have an M in there, at the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is 180. So for instance, let's say this was 60 degrees. This one would have to be 180 degrees. Okay, vertical angle theorem means they are congruent. So you could say they're congruent or they're equal to each other. So if we look at our diagram again, 4 and 2 are vertical angles. They are across from each other right here. If they are vertical, they are equal to each other. The measure of angle 4 is equal to the measure of angle 2. You could also say it the other way. Angle 1 is equal to angle 3. The measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 3. Or you could just say angle 4 is congruent to angle 2, or angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Okay, when we know that, we can fill in all the missing blanks. So for instance, I'm looking at this angle, and I know this angle is a vertical angle with this angle. If those are vertical angles, that means they are congruent to each other. They're both 30 degrees. And then these other two, well, we can look at the linear pair. And we could say, okay, this one is a linear pair. It makes a straight line. If it makes a straight line, it has to add up to 180. And so 180 minus 30 is 150. So that's how I got that one. And if that's a 150, this one's a vertical angle with it, it's also 150. So this is 150 and 30, this is 30 and 150, this is 150 and 30. All of those are linear pairs together, and these are vertical and these are vertical. Let's go to the next page. Oh boy, and we have a lot going on here. But again, linear pairs and vertical angles will allow us to fill in everything. Notice that we already know the 83 and we already know the 49. Everything else is missing. Well, I see an easy one, and that's angle 2. Angle 2 is 83 degrees because they're vertical angles. They add up, or excuse me, they are congruent to each other. Can you look and see, is there a vertical angle with angle 49, the 49 degree angle? Okay, I'm looking here. I have this 49 and I have this angle 4 over here. This angle 4 is also 49 degrees. Do you see how they're right across from each other like that? They have these like V's pointing at each other. They make an X. That's vertical angles. The last one we need is angle 1 and angle 3. Well, there's a couple different ways we can look at it, but either way it's going to kind of look the same. It's going to come up with the same answer. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at this whole thing. Do you see how this whole thing is a straight line? And we know that a straight line is 180 degrees. So I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract 83. And that gives me 97. And then I'm going to take 97, I'm going to subtract 49. And that's going to leave me with 48. This piece is 48 degrees because 48 plus 49 plus 83, if I add those three together, they add up to 180. Now, if that's true, then this is also 48. Do you see how that's a vertical pair? Makes an X, so that's also 48. Or you could also think of it as 49 plus 48 plus 83 is equal to 180 over here. Or over here, like there's a bunch of different ways you can see it. So let's go back to over here. Angle 1 is 48, 2 is 83, 3 is 48, and 4 is 49. All right, in this next section, we're just asking, is it vertical or linear pair? These two, They're across from each other. Those are vertical angles. These make a straight line. The word line is here. It's a linear pair. And then it asks us to find the value of x. So now we need to set up an equation. If these are vertical, they are equal or congruent. So we could say 110 is equal to 2x plus 40. And we need to solve that. So let's subtract 40 from both sides. And then we're going to bring that down and we're going to divide by 2. And so we get x is 35 degrees. Okay, this one over here we decided was a linear pair. Remember, a linear pair adds up to be 180. So we could say 3x plus 8 plus x is equal to 180. So I'm going to go to add my like terms, and then I'm going to bring that down and subtract 8. I get 4x is equal to 172. I need to use my calculator and take 172 divided by 4. So when I divide by 4, I get x is 43. Okay, this question is set up kind of interesting, but we're specifically focusing on x. Where are the x's? Here's an x, here's an x. Are those vertical angles or are they linear pairs? Well, they're vertical. And if they're vertical, that means they're equal to each other or congruent. So we could say 3x plus 17 is equal to 5x minus 47. And again, we could solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So I bring that down, 17 equals 2x minus 47. I need to add 47 to both sides. So I get 64 is equal to 2x, divide by 2, and I get my x is equal to 32. This next one is asking about y. Let's look at where y is. Here's y, here's y. Are those vertical or are they linear pairs? Well, once again, those are vertical angles, and if they are vertical, they are equal to each other or congruent to each other. So we can say 2y plus 9 is equal to 3y minus 20. Okay, subtract my 2y, I get 9 equals 1y plus 20. I'm going to add 20 to both sides. And so I get 29 is equal to y, or y equals 29. Okay, we'll see if we have time for this last example. Okay, let's go ahead and do some of these. I like to keep the videos under 15 minutes, so if we go over 15 minutes, I'm just going to cut it off. But let's go ahead and start with x. Are they vertical or are they linear pair? Let's look at it. Makes a straight line. Straight line is a linear pair. That means the sum is 180. So since it's a linear pair, I'm going to add it up to equal 180. So here's my equation. I need to add my like terms. Add my like terms, I get 8x minus 52. I need to solve for x, so I'm going to add 52 to both sides. Use my calculator, I get 232. I divide by 8, and my calculator says that is 29. So x is equal to 29. Of course, we could always check this. We haven't checked any of these, but you can always check it. Just plug it in. So take that 29, plug it in for x, and plug it in for x, and then see what you get, and we'll add them together and see if they add up to 180. So I'm going to take my calculator and just to check it for us and make sure. So I plug these in. I plug in a 29 here. I plug in a 29 here. I get 142 and 38. 142 and 38 does add up to 180. So we did it right. Okay, last problem, we're looking for y. Here's y, here's y. What do you think? Is that a linear pair or vertical angles? Once again, that's a linear pair. Linear pairs have to add up to 180. So I'm going to add those two expressions together and set it equal to 180. So here's my equation. I'm going to add my like terms. Get 4y minus 20 is equal to 180. I'm going to add that 20 to both sides. So I get 4y equals 200. Divide by 4, I get y equals 50. Okay, we did a lot of examples here, so this was a lot of work. Make sure that you understand the difference between vertical angles and linear pair, and when we come back to class, we will go over these together.